I know you're all tired after all this long day. I'll promise I won't be long. I have, in fact, a 12 minutes limitation, so I'll be quite brief. In the next minutes, I'll be sharing with you a sort of personal journey. It's both personal and professional. I've been a climate and environmental activist for the last 20 years, and I've been living on this planet for about 4 decades now. And in the next minutes, what I will try to share with you is what I've learned over these last decades about how we can manage our very uncertain future and futures, as Ciprian was saying. And it will be a journey about time. It will be about time acceleration. But I will also try at the end to share with you if there are actions that we can do in order to tame this time, which is accelerating a lot. Yeah? And in the journey, I'll be inviting you to join me in 3 moments in the past and 1 in the future, okay? So I'll be starting with 1984. It's a quite famous year. It's a famous novel from Orwell, yeah? It's also the year in which I was born, so more than 4 decades ago. And in that year, we were around 4.7 billion people on the Earth, and we had 340 ppm, parts per million, of CO2 in the atmosphere. I know it's the end of the day, it's also a Saturday, so we don't necessarily want to hear and speak about numbers and variables. I promise these will be the only ones I will invoke in my speech in order to highlight this acceleration of time and the things that we are living in. So the number of population, 4.7 billion, it was quite new. At the beginning of the century, we were almost 1 billion people on the Earth. Yeah? So in the first decades of this century, we increased from 1 to 4.7 when I was born. And the parts per million, the ppm of CO2, which is a very important greenhouse gas, yeah, for a very long period of time, so for the last 1 million years, we had between 200 and 280 parts per million. So already when I was born, we were at 340, which was quite huge, and we weren't there for centuries and centuries. We were there, we began to raise after the Industrial Revolution when we found out what are the fossil fuels and how we can use them in our economic growth activities, etc. So we began to grow. So when I was born, we had 340, so the highest share of parts per million that the humanity knew for the last 1 million years. It was quite an inédit period, but it didn't stop there. When I was born, luckily, we didn't know too much about these things. Yeah? So I was one of the last generations, together with my parents and grandparents, that inherited a world which wasn't so much changed compared to the worlds and societies that we had before us. Yeah? That was about to change quite a lot. But luckily, in '84, I had a normal childhood. I would say quite a poetic childhood. Yeah, the countryside with my grandparents, raising animals, eating local food, yeah, knowing what we should eat in each season, yeah, how to connect with nature. I had snow in the winter time, a lot of snow. And I had very decent summers in which we didn't have 40, 45 degrees outside, yeah? So it was a quite nice childhood. Fast forward, the next stop in my journey is in 2006. It was the year of my graduation. I graduated, as my colleague said, from International Relations at Institut de Sciences Politiques in Paris. So this is why you understand why I'm speaking English like this. So I would have preferred French, but I'm coping with English too. So in 2006, I was graduating. And the planet had 6.6 billion people. So in the first almost 2 decades of my life, the world population increased by 40%. I don't know if you're aware of the amplitude of this. What do you think had happened with the ppm, with the parts per million? Do you think they went down, up? Up. They went up. They reached 380 parts per million. So an increase of 10% during my first 2 decades of life, a growth. In physics and in mathematics, we would say even an exponential growth. So it was an acceleration. It was acceleration of population, of climate change, and a lot of other things. But in 2006, we weren't very, very aware of this either. In Romania, we were very busy to become a member of the European Union. At global level, we were very preoccupied to grow, to progress, to be bigger, and to have larger gross domestic products, etc. So we weren't paying too much attention to these issues. Yeah? The third stop from this retrospective history is in 2019. In 2019, so these are years which are important for me, obviously, but I think they are also significant for the humanity. But for me, it became very important because it was the year in which I became a mother. And obviously, all these issues on which I was working since 2006, since I've co-founded Repair 21, they became not only professional, not only a hobby, not only a passion, but they became a personal stake because I was understanding that this world, which was accelerating like hell, it was also the world in which my kid is going to grow, try to make a meaning in life, a sense, etc. So in 2019, all these issues become very personal. Also in 2019, we were 7.8 billion people on the earth. It was an increase of over 80% of the world population since I was born in 1984. What do you think had happened with the ppms? They went up or down? Definitely up. They reached 410 ppm concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, despite numerous international agreements, Paris agreements, technologies that we have created in order to stock the carbon, etc. The ppms continues to rise. Yeah? So as the biodiversity extinction, so as the use of the natural resources, and so on and so forth. So the time continued to accelerate. Yeah? In 2019, also, we had the preparation for a very big shock that we faced in 2020 when we had the pandemics. The pandemics was a showcase of our acceleration of time because we were interacting in very complex ways with what was around us. Yeah? COVID was a zoonose, an interaction between humans and the other non-human beings outside our societies. And 2019, 2020 was a year in which I think we understood that not only time in our societies is accelerating, but also that we are not living anymore in a society which is linear, which is in constant progress, which is going up, because this is what we were taught by modernity, yeah? That we will have a brilliant future all the time ahead of us. I think in 2019, 2020, we understood that the world is going to change, and is going to change quite a lot, either because of the pandemics, because of the war that soon came. It can change because of climate, it can change because of biodiversity, so we can have multiple crises. So it was a very important year, not only for myself, because I became a mother, but I think for our entire society. And with this third step, I finish my journey in the past, yeah, this retrospective perspective. And the last stop I'm inviting you to take with me, it will be in 2035, so it's closer than 2050. It's 2035. I've chosen it because in 10 years I'll be 50. It's a nice round age. I like it. But also because my kid in 2035, he will be more or less your age. And I'm asking myself each day, what am I going to teach him, to tell him about this world? What are the kind of skills, of attitudes, of knowledge that he should have to navigate in this world? But not only to navigate it, I would very much like that he finds a happiness because he's born on this planet. Yeah? So before telling you what I'm telling to Vladimir, not Putin, but Vladimir, my son, because he's called Vladimir, we didn't know this one. We didn't know what will happen when we named him Vladimir. Before telling you this, I will share very briefly what I think about our world. I think would look in 2035. For sure, it will be a world which is very much changed to what we are living today. It will be a world, I call it, of a poli-crisis. So of crisis that will no longer be here and there, will no longer be separated one from another, but will combine, yeah? Perhaps giving birth even to a huge crisis that will combine economic, social, environmental issues, yeah? So it will be a world very changed compared to what we are living today, but we shouldn't be afraid of it, yeah? We should embrace it, because I don't think there is too much we can do about it. So, coming back to what I'm telling to Vladimir, I'm trying to work with him in order to be able to navigate in this uncertain and not very positive future. There are 3 ideas. The first one is that I think he will need to be endowed with certain type of competencies that we are not developing too much in our today's societies, especially in schools. And these competencies, they deal with complex thinking, so the ability to understand that the things are very connected among each other, and the social thing, it's an economic one and it's an environmental one. Prospective thinking, so the foresight, the ability to think in a systematic way at the future and to imagine ways, directions of personal development, taking into account the different type of futures that we have ahead of us. Critical thinking and ethical thinking to be able to understand what's good and what's right in our societies. So the first thing is the right type of competencies. Yeah? The second thing, I'm working with him, and in fact this is what he taught me, and I will teach him at my turn, is that if with the first type with the competencies, I'm trying to teach him how to understand the acceleration of time, because my speech is about time acceleration. With the second kind of encouragement, I'm trying to teach him how to deconstruct time. I'm encouraging him to make and to develop different type of experiences that we are taught in our today's society. Very, very bizarre ones, like spending a lot of time with family, a lot of time with friends, time in nature, the ability to understand the other non-human beings, yeah? To spend time outside and see other perspectives of time. For example, the trunk of a tree, which encompasses hundreds of years old of experience that we are not seeing so much in our societies. So different type of experiences that deconstruct the acceleration of objective universal time and introduce him in a slower, softer, I would say even deep time, yeah? And the third thing I'm encouraging him to do in order to deconstruct the anxiety that we might have in our societies is that, okay, we are living in a world of huge complexity and of challenges. But this is also an opportunity, like the crisis word in Asian means, yeah? The fact that we have this huge opportunity, these huge challenges also means that we have huge opportunity of action. Our today young children, yeah, our adolescents, they have the capacity to use a huge stage, yeah, a huge scene like this one, to be able to become actors and to play a very meaningful role in our societies of tomorrow. And this is an opportunity that my generation, and for sure the ones that were behind me, didn't have it. Thank you.